Well, good evening, everybody, and welcome to our town hall meeting concerning recovery from the recent Walbridge, Meyers, and glass fires in Sonoma County. Before we get started, we have a brief message for our Spanish-speaking viewers. Gilbert, you want to help us out on that?
Gracias, Paul. Buenas noches y bienvenidos a la sesión informativa donde el gobierno local, los funcionarios estatales y federales nos darán una actualización sobre la recuperación de los incendios Glass, Myers y Walbridge. Esta actualización será transmitida a la conclusión de esta sesión en nuestro canal de YouTube en español. Para escuchar la versión en español, puede usar el link de YouTube que se encuentra en la página de Facebook del Condado de Sonoma. Gracias. Back to you, Paul.
Thank you, Gilbert. I'm Paul Gullickson, Communications Manager for the County of Sonoma, and I will be your moderator this evening. And I just want to I start by thanking all of those who helped put together this town hall briefing, including our partners from the city of Santa Rosa. In particular, though, we want to thank you all for being here. We know these are challenging days, and our thoughts are with you as you go through this recovery. We just want to assure you that you are not alone and that there are a number of people who are working and putting in long hours and are available to help you through this time. And if you haven't already, you're going to meet many of those people tonight. Tonight's Recovery Town Hall will provide you with an opportunity to hear updates from state and local officials about the fire recovery process, including, most importantly, debris removal. As you may know, the state's Phase 2 debris removal process began in fire-affected areas in Sonoma County on Tuesday. A total of 432 properties in Sonoma County have structures that were destroyed and will require Phase 2 debris removal. As a reminder, the deadline to apply for this program is December 15th. That is important because as of today, we have received 63 fully completed right of entry forms from property owners who are opting into the state program. We've also received 84 applications for private debris removal. That leaves 285 property owners who we haven't heard from and whose paperwork is not yet complete. Tonight, we really want to stress that time is of the essence. It might not feel like it, but more rain is coming. And we want to keep toxins out of the soil, waterways, and groundwater within the burned areas. Removing the burned debris as quickly as possible will ensure that. And if there are not enough parcels in Sonoma County enrolled in the public program, the debris removal crews will be pulled away to focus on another county until the numbers justify returning to ours. For those that may still be on the fence about your cleanup plan, our hope for you tonight is that you will get the answers you need to your questions and help you make a decision prior to the deadline, which again is just 2 weeks away. You may ask questions today simply by raising your hand or by leaving it in the Q&A box down below. Some of you may have already left questions on the SurveyMonkey site, which we had given you. But we would ask for now that you hold off on your questions until the end when we get through our presenters. And then we will have plenty of times for question and answers. So we will begin our, Stuart, would you put up the agenda so we can see that we do have quite a number of presenters to go through who have some valuable information for you tonight. And that's just an overview of some of the people we have. I'm not going to go through and introduce everybody now. I will introduce them as it is their turn. But we will begin. Our first speaker will be Chris McSwain from Cal Recycle, who can talk about the state's debris removal program and how it's going so far. So let's go to Chris. Chris.
Good evening, everybody, and thank you for giving us an opportunity to give an update. I also have Amber Lane from the California Office of Emergency Services on the line as well. She is your branch director, so she's overseeing the operations. And I'll give you a quick overview for anybody that is new to this as to what Phase 2 is, what it covers, and what the advantages to your property. And then I'm going to ask Amber to give an update on what our progress is at this point. Phase 2 is a program that's operated by the state of California called the Consolidated Debris Removal Program. And what this is it's no out-of-pocket cost to you, the property owner. And what will be removed is structural debris, any hazard trees that are a danger to the public right-of-way. To put that succinctly, a tree that is dead or dying from this fire that might fall onto a roadway or a public building. So it doesn't cover every tree, but it covers trees that are a danger to the public. This will be all the ash and debris. And we can talk into a little, I know a lot of you have been on these calls before, so we won't go too deep into these details, but there will be an opportunity for questions that you may have. We have bring in private contractors to do that work. We have executed contracts with those contractors, and they've began deploying their resources to the field. So we have just a brief amount of time, so I want to turn it over to Amber to give us an update on where we are in Sonoma County at this point and in the branch that she leads. Amber?
Yes, so we are well underway. We have a consultant out in the field and has been for about 2 weeks now doing assessments. I think my camera's turned off, just so you know. And they're doing air monitoring, background samples. They have also done soil samples so that they can get what's naturally occurring, so that when we do our soil samples on your property, we know what a good baseline is. We have asbestos surveys being done right now. That is, we go out and just test for asbestos, and then we will abate it if there is asbestos. We also have excavators dropped on our first lots that we'll be doing. We are doing truck inspections right now, which I think is really important for you guys to understand the safety that we put into this. We keep safety first in mind, and we inspect every truck to make sure they're safe going up and down those roads. The other things that we're doing is air quality testing or air monitoring to make sure that we know that we are not putting air particles or particles into your air during our debris mission. All these things are going along very rapidly, and we are trying to take all the proper precautions, as well as getting permits environmentally, watching Watershed, making sure all the ROEs are correct, and making sure that we have all the information and health and safety information out to our contractors and consultants. We will be calling homeowners 24 hours to 48 hours ahead of debris removal. We've already made our first round of calls, so that's exciting to us. Because once we know we start that first slot, it's kind of like the train hits the track and we go, and it just keeps going. So, Paul, I think you did a great job of explaining the urgency of getting your ROE in. When we are in your area, we'll be in your area until we have no more work. So as long as the work keeps coming in, ROEs keep coming in, then we'll stay in that area. But like Chris said, we have 6 counties for the inland branch, and we will be putting the crews where the work is. So with that being said, we are happy to be out here, happy to help you in your recovery, and hope that the 200 and some odd people that have not filled out an ROE yet, ask your questions, be your biggest advocate, get in there and do whatever you need to do to get this done so that we can definitely get you along in your recovery process. Thank you.
Thank you, Amber. And thank you, Chris. Yes, if there's one thing we want to get across tonight, it's the importance of getting those ROE forms filled out and submitted. On that note, let's go to Christine Sosko from Sonoma County Environmental Health, who'll talk a little more about the enrollment program. Christine?
Hi, everybody. Tonight, I just want to share with you how to get enrolled in the Consolidated Debris Removal Program, and how we can get you signed up and help and assist you through this process. As was discussed earlier, the first step to beginning the public cleanup program is this right of entry and the right of entry process. The form, once it's completed, will grant the government contractors access to your property and then they can conduct debris removal and the subsequent soil sampling, which will verify that your property has been cleaned up to the standards and all the criteria is being met. If you had a loss from either this year's fire, this year's fire, and also if you live either within the city or the county, you can complete the ROE process through the same step. This will enable for the debris removal to begin, like as Amber talked about earlier. So the applications can be found at SoCo Emergency. If you go to socoemergency.org/2020-ROE, and you could also just go to the Sonoma County Emergency.org website and then click on the corresponding fire and then follow the icon for debris removal and then the right of entry. And that will get you to the application. Along with the application form and completing that form, you'll also need to submit a copy of an identification such as a driver's license or a passport. This can just be, a photocopy or even like an iPhone picture, and you can send that in with it. If you had insurance on your property, you would want to include the insurance declaration pages and especially the debris removal page. And then also, if it's applicable, you'll need to submit copies of your trust or LLC documents. And then you would also need to have your right of entry signed by your trustee or the LLC. And then also, if you lost a vehicle in that fire, you'd want to submit a copy of your vehicle's insurance so that that can be removed during the process also. Also important to note that on the right of entry form, there's a big box that allows you to provide notes in this area or drawings. This is a great place to mark if you had anything like a well or a septic system or anything that is of concern when the right of entry process is going on and the debris removal on your property. That's a great place for the contractors to look and see, oh, there's a well on that corner of the property, so that they're very cautious about going over on that side, and so they don't damage any of those pieces. Then also, as you heard earlier from Chris, properties that have trees that were damaged during the fire and they may impact the roadway, you can also apply for a right of entry. And what you would want to do is you'd want to make, in that note area, you'd want to make a note that this is for trees only. If you did not lose a structure and you just lost trees, or if you lost a structure and trees, you could make a note that it's for both. And that will help through the process for us. So then, as you heard, the deadline for submitting the right of entries is December 15th. So we really want to give you this opportunity to ask questions, and then also I want to give you some information so that if you have questions after, you can contact us and we can help guide you through this program. You can contact our debris hotline, which is area code 707-565-6700. And then we also have an email kind of hotline hotbox, which is ehdebrisremoval@sonoma-county.org. And then in addition to that, we have set up a right of entry center. We have an in-person right of entry center, which is at our 625 Fifth Street offices. And this is open Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 3 p.m. And it's by appointment. So when you go into the SoCo emergency site, you would book an appointment and you would have a specific time. You would sign up, you would have a wellness check, and then you would have an hour appointment with somebody who can walk you completely through the process and answer any questions. You can also do this virtually, and those appointments are available Monday, Wednesday, and Friday from 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. and then Tuesday and Thursday from 1 p.m. to 7 p.m. and then also on Saturdays from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. And please, if anybody has any questions at any time, if you call our hotline or send us an email, we're here to help and explain both of those processes to you.
That's great. Christine, Christine is setting a great example of how to speak at a very conversational level to really help our interpreters be able to really follow along. So thank you, Christine. Christine, do you want to, at this point, go in and talk about the private debris removal for us?
Sure, I can do that. So you have two options. You can do the consolidated or what we're calling the public program, the right of entry program, or you can choose to do this through your own contractor, and that would be considered our private program. And if you do this, you would hire a licensed contractor and they would complete that debris removal process for you. It's pretty much identical to the CalRecycle process, and they pretty much mimic each other. The private debris removal process includes the hazardous waste removal, asbestos sampling, and soil sampling, just as was talked about in the other program. And then the property owner also has an option. They could clean up their own property, but they would either have to be a licensed contractor or use licensed contractors that have the appropriate certifications to meet the debris removal requirements, such as asbestos and the hazardous waste. So there's applications and a list of the requirements and also sample work plans that are available on the socoemergency.org site. And these can guide you and your contractor through the process. And then also the same phone number and hotline that we talked about earlier, those are both available for the private program. So if you're debating between the two programs and just want to talk to somebody about which program might be a better fit for you and get some information, we can help you with that. There also is an exemption process, and this would be for those properties where the structure that was destroyed is less than 120 square feet and it was inert in nature. So an example we always use is kind of a hay barn, but a hay barn, when we say a hay barn, it's less than 120 square foot hay barn, and it maybe was out of wood and there was just hay stored in it. You wouldn't be able to have had vehicles or any of those other items that might have been in your garage that could be contaminants. So it's a very kind of limited exemption. It also would work for things like fencing or just some small areas where something's been destroyed and it's inert and it is not going to contaminate the soil. So those are kind of your options going through the process between the private and the right of entry, the consolidated program, and then also a few will qualify for this exemption program.
Great. Thank you, Christine. I'm sure we're going to have some more questions for you later on. For right now, for more on the private debris removal program, let's go to our friends from the city of Santa Rosa, we're going to go to Paul Lowenthal and Kemplin Robbins from the Santa Rosa Fire Department. Paul?
Hey, thank you, Paul. And thank you, Christine. And Christine really covered the private debris removal program very well. The programs in both the city and the county mirror one another. And that's really our goal, is to keep it consistent so that regardless of whose community you're in, whether the county or the city, it works. And we are working very closely together, and a lot of the information for the private debris removal program can be found at the city site, srcity.org/glass fire recovery. And there you'll get a lot of that same information specific to the private debris removal and exemptions. But even if you end up at the county's information, we're constantly working together and communicating on a daily basis and helping pass our respective community members back and forth as needed. We talked before the meeting about using this opportunity really quickly to highlight a little bit that was covered by Christine and Cal Recycle about the tree program. The tree program is something that we're really excited about here locally in the county and the city, and something that we did not have here in 2017. So we're excited about our ability to work closely with Cal OES and Cal Recycle on this. And as a lot of our community members have seen, we are seeing the impacts of the dead and dying trees following the Tubbs and Nuns fires here locally. And a lot of those trees are literally crumbling alongside our roads. So we're hoping to avoid that this time following the glass fires and eligible fires here locally, and really encouraging our residents to take the time and submit that right of entry form for trees, and really trying to emphasize that you don't need to have a damaged structure to be eligible for that program. So the state will evaluate the trees, and if they're likely to die within 5 years by one of their arborists' reports, that tree is a threat, and is a threat to a right-of-way or public infrastructure like a hydrant in the city or a water meter, then it very well could be removed and help reduce our risks in the future. One thing that has come up, and one of the questions that we have heard that we want to acknowledge is about some of the trees that have been felled by PG&E. We do understand that some of those trees could have been eligible through the state's program, but are currently not eligible if it was a tree that is or would have been a threat to the right-of-way and was felled by PG&E. The county and the city wanted to make sure that our community knows that we are working very close together regarding this issue, and both the city manager's office and the county administrator's office are working closely to try and identify what the impacts would be from that, and a path forward here locally. So hopefully more information to follow, but really our emphasis right now is encouraging residents that have impacts from the fire with those damaged trees that will be or could be a threat to the right-of-way, to take the time to get that right of entry in, especially if you're lacking on the insurance bucket of money specific to tree removal. And that's it. Thanks, Paul.
Great. Thank you, Paul. I'm sure we're going to have some questions about trees as well coming up. I know another area that is a lot of concern has to do with watershed protection. And for that, let's start with, let's get an update on our watershed task force update. For the unincorporated area, we're going to go to John Kessel from the County Office of Recovery and Resiliency. John?
Thank you very much, Paul. Good evening, everybody. Just wanted to say how much I appreciate you being here and visiting with us. I know maybe some of you have heard me make a presentation before on the watershed. There's a few updates that I have, but I'll cover some basic information. If you go to our socoemergency.org website, in the recovery section, either for the glass fire or the Walbridge Meyers fire, there's going to be a rain ready section. And in that rain ready section, we've got a lot of good information that we can give you. The Watershed Task Force is a group of maybe 15 or 16 different groups, agencies, departments that all have an expertise in water quality and safety. And we meet many times per month, typically 3 times a week with regular meetings and then ad hoc meetings to cover both hazard assessment, which is really involving rainfall and what that can do after a fire, as well as mitigation, which is more like the Wattles that you hear about and see being installed. And so we've got the group kind of divided up that way. A lot of the information that we have is now available from for the public, and that's our WERT maps, and it's the Watershed Emergency Response Team Report maps. And those are on our same pages. And those maps actually cover a lot of the potential hazards, and they're very much geared towards what could happen if we had very heavy rains. And so they're a really good resource for you to look at. You can actually go in and type in your address, look to see what basin you're in. And then there's a link there that will show you the actual full report. It's very technical. So if you do get that and you have questions, do reach out to us here at the county, and we can get the right staff person based on whatever your question may be to get in touch with you and kind of walk you through those basics. And then the other area of BMPs or Wattles, we have a number of contractors, and I think everybody's aware of them at this point, but I'll mention it again. In the glass fire, we've got 3 contractors. Sonoma Ecology Center is really the lead contractor. And then Community Soil Foundation and Russian River Keeper supporting that effort as well. And many people like to work with them and know them well. And then for the Walbridge Meyers fires, it's the Community Soil Foundation and Russian River Keeper that are the 2 leads. And you can reach out to those groups, and I'll put the contact information, if that's appropriate, in the chat. But all that information is found on the SoCo Emergency Recovery webpage under Rain Ready. So it's there, so you don't necessarily have to write it down here. And they can provide technical assistance, and then they can also help with the installation of the Wattles for the high priority sites. Now, one thing that's new is we're working with Cal OES, the state agency, and we are looking to see if we can get the state to install some Wattles. And these would be for the properties primarily associated with the debris phase 2 cleanup. And so that's a mission that we've requested from Cal OES, and they're supportive of that if we can get enough ROEs, the right of entry forms. And so we're really working in that same group or with the same group of people who are doing that for the debris phase 2. And I just would encourage you, if you've got concerns with Watershed, if you can fill out that ROE and we can get enough properties in a critical mass located together, we may be able to get some additional work done by Cal OES that would really be beneficial. And that's kind of my update and report and big overview, and we'll be here to answer questions.
Great, thank you, John. And if you do have some information or a link you want to include in the chat box, please feel free to do so. I'm sure people would appreciate it. For more on watershed protection, let's go to Sean McNeil from Santa Rosa Water. Sean?
Hello, my name is Sean McNeil, and I'm here representing the Watershed Task Force for the City of Santa Rosa. The task force is working closely with the county's task force. John, who just spoke, has been a great supporter of the city on this. And we're working really to minimize the impacts that this fire has had or will or could have on the water quality of our waterways. In the city, we are helping our residents through this process. Please visit our website if you're a city resident. Go to srcity.org/emergency. That will get you to our emergency page. There you can click on the glass fire recovery button. And on that page, you'll find a wealth of information. In particular, if you click on the preparing your property for rain after wildfire link on that site, you'll find all the resources that the city has put together to help you through this process, basically to help protect our waterways from the impacts of this fire that has happened on your property. Here's a couple of items I'd like to just highlight that we have on this page. The city is giving away free Wattles to the residents of the city who have been impacted by the fire. These weighted Wattles are designed to prevent soil erosion and runoff from your properties from getting into our local waterways, so you can conserve the soil on your site, as well as help protect our waterways with these Wattles. We have a couple of locations where we're distributing these identified on the site, so you can go there and get them. They're nearby the areas of impact for ease for you to grab and install. Many people in the city have already used these items. We also have information on how to implement these, how to install these Wattles. This is very useful, as well as other information on how you could protect the watershed. So with that, I don't want to reiterate all the great things that John Kessel just spoke about, but the city is involved and is supporting the same efforts that John spoke about in protecting these waterways. So to learn more, please do visit our website, srcity.org/emergency. You'll find out all the information that you need there. And I also will be available for any questions afterwards. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Sean. We appreciate you being here. We also know that there are a number of questions about rebuilding, particularly in the area of sewer and septic systems. And for that, we're going to go to Nathan Quarles with the Permit Sonoma for the County of Sonoma. We'll talk a little bit about that area. Nathan?
Yes, thank you, Paul. Good evening, everybody. Appreciate your time. I'm going to talk a little bit about the building permit process in our resiliency center, and then touch on septic systems and on wells. So the resiliency permit center we created in 2018 in response to the 2017 complex fires. We basically hired a contractor who's doing the plan review and inspection services for us. The volume was just too much for our department to handle, so we had to use outside sources for this. So a couple highlights of our contract. We have a contractual agreement for expedited processing of building plans. It's a 5-day turnaround time for what we call the first review. The contractor is able to do this. They have 150 employees statewide. And if the work comes in big volumes, too much for their on-site staff to handle, they ship it out to one of their locations around the state. We do have 4 or 5 staff in-house from the contractor. Their name, by the way, is 4Leaf Incorporated, and they're on-site to assist with processing permits and intake, things like that. The other highlight is we reduced the fees for the fire rebuilding, so that's should help out a little bit. So a couple points. One is you can design and have the plan reviewed right now. We are not waiting for the site to be clean to do the plan review and get the permit to be code compliant. You can work in parallel with a cleanup in that respect. However, we won't issue the building permits until the site is cleaned up. And we've looked at the database from Environmental Health, I believe, and they note which sites have been cleaned up. So we have that information and are not issuing permits until the site is ready to be built on. But the point is you can do this in parallel. You can have the designs made up, you can have them plan reviewed while the sites are being cleaned. Another aspect on the building process is due to the pandemic, we made the shift to 100% electronic submittal and 100% electronic plan review. And it works great if you're a design house or design firm and you've done it, tens and tens of times. But if you're going to be doing this yourself, getting the submittal through our portal can be a little bit challenging, but we're here to help with that as well. So shifting to septic systems. So we know that in the rural setting, most domestic waste is treated by on-site septic systems. Our overall presumption is that these systems were working fine before the fire, and that they will work fine. That they were working fine before the fire, and that they will work fine after the fire. We have seen many instances of minor damage, most things with plastic that are near the surface, melted, things like valves or distribution boxes, things of that nature. We also have seen some septic tanks get cracked due to either the heat or in some cases the debris removal. And I just want to highlight something that Christine Sosko said, and that is if you get some of that yellow tape and tape off the area where your septic tank is, or your well, or any other thing that you want to protect from the debris removal, because we have seen things get damaged during that phase of the cleanup. One thing we do ask for in septic systems is what we call a modified findings report. We realize that minor things get damaged and we want a professional, we call them a qualified consultant, and those two professions are either a registered environmental health specialist or a civil engineer. And what they do is they go do a quick evaluation of your septic system to make sure that it will work, maybe some nominal repairs, but it's going to function after when you rebuild. Most of these nominal repairs can be done without a permit. Some things do require a permit, such as if you need to replace the septic tank due to damage, that would require permit. And the other thing that would require permit is the other presumption is that people are rebuilding in kind. So if you had a 3-bedroom house, you replace it with a 3-bedroom house. Where a permit may be required is if you add bedrooms, and we want to evaluate the septic system, because if you add that 4th bedroom, the septic system may not have the capacity to handle that increase in waste flow. So we ask for a permit to evaluate the septic system if you are adding bedrooms. On the well side, pretty much the whole discussion is very similar. We presume that they were working before, providing you with adequate water quality and water quantity, and we presume that they're going to work after you rebuild. And there may be some minor repairs. In this case, we see a lot of the electrical wiring, the panels above grade, and that burn, some minor stuff like that. Any type of electrical work does need a permit, however. The trigger on wells is dwelling units. We presume that they're serving 1 dwelling unit or 2 dwelling units, but if you start adding dwelling units to the property, the well might not, it may need what we call a well yield test to demonstrate that there's adequate water supply. So those are my highlights, and I'd like to turn it back over to Paul.
Great, thank you, Nathan. Let's go to, for more on rebuilding, let's go to Jesse Oswald, the Chief Building Official for the City of Santa Rosa. Jesse?
Oh, thank you, Paul, and thank you for all of our county partners in this effort tonight and through the entire process. I won't go over too much different information other than what Nathan went over. The processes are very similar, city and county. We do have, as far as rebuilding, the expedited process since the city was not nearly as impacted as the county as far as numbers. We will be performing the reviews and inspections through our permanent staff, but we do again have the expedited process, just like in the Tubbs Nuns recovery effort. The submittals will go through our rebuild at srcity.org. That team will ensure that all processing, much like the county, goes smoothly. And we have also adopted a 100% electronic plan review process for these. We don't have nearly the issues with septic and well in the city of Santa Rosa. There are a few select instances in incorporated Santa Rosa that may be on well or septic, but primarily those are in the unincorporated areas. Those properties that may have an affected well or septic would follow the exact guidance that Nathan provided. Any facilitation for well and septic is under Nathan's team and the county's jurisdiction. One thing we do have that's different than the county is mostly we are connected to sewer infrastructure. In other words, sewer lines, sewer mains in the streets. Where we run into some troubles with our sewer system is that if a house was damaged, severely damaged or destroyed, the potential for intrusion of on-site contaminants, soils, or other debris getting into the municipal sewer system exists. So our city, Santa Rosa City water and sewer teams have installed inflatable plugs in those sewer laterals now, and each of the property owners that happen to receive a letter indicating that that has been done and that the sewer lateral will need to be capped to prevent intrusion. And then during the rebuild process, those sewer laterals will need to be certified, verified that they are clear and that they are structurally intact, just to ensure that we don't have troubles in our municipal sewer system. That's about it for the city of Santa Rosa's rebuild sewer issues. I am a direct contact for anyone in the city. You can contact me directly or through the SR City Rebuild email. Thank you.
Great, thank you, Jesse. So next, we're very happy to welcome Amy Bach, Executive Director of United Policy Holders, who's been a good friend of Sonoma County over the last few years, and she can help address many of the questions you may have about insurance and other issues related to rebuilding. Amy, thanks for being here.
Paul, thank you so much. And if your team wants to start my video, you can see my slightly tired but hardworking face. It's really just amazing to me how much resources the county is bringing to the Glass, Walbridge and Meyers fire impacted households. And to those of you who've dialed in, it should be, I hope, some comfort to you in this challenging time, that you live in a place where the public officials and your tax dollars go towards providing services that are so very helpful to you at this time. So I am speaking here for a nonprofit organization that has partnered with the county and the agencies that you're hearing tonight to assist people who have been impacted by the previous wildfires. My organization is unique. We're called United Policyholders. Hopefully you've heard of us because we have been offering everything that we offer is free. We've been offering free webinars, workshops similar to this one since the fires hit. In fact, tonight, while we're having this forum, we are hosting a question and answer forum just on insurance issues that we had scheduled before we knew tonight was happening. So what I recommend is that when you have a minute, you go to our website, which is uphelp.org, uphelp.org, /2020 wildfires. And you can go to a library we've set up for you that will, in very plain English and sometimes in Spanish, give you what we call a good roadmap to your recovery. Our organization has been around for almost 30 years. Next year will be our 30th year of service, specifically for people, households and businesses that have been hit by a wildfire and really need every dime of their insurance to be available to pay for repairs and rebuilding, and that really need some guidance in understanding the foreign language of insurance and the process. And so there are lots of resources that I would suggest that you take advantage of, including we have a survivor to survivor forum, which we actually had last night. We'll be doing it again. We have the schedule of all our events at our website. And that's where people who've been there, done that. And I know a lot of you living in this community know people who've been there, done that. The difference between somebody you might run into on the street who wants to give you support, which is a wonderful thing, and our survivor volunteers is that we train them to really give you guidance that doesn't say, well, you must do it the way I did it, but in fact, more usefully, that there are different paths you can take to getting your life back. And my organization is committed to giving you data points, pieces of information, just like what you're getting tonight, to help you make good decisions. So a couple of quick messages I want to leave you with. If you didn't get to the local assistance center when one of our representatives was there, and you want a copy of this book, this is our Disaster Recovery Handbook and Household Inventory Guide. We will be happy to send you one free of charge. And you can email us at info@uphelp.org. And here are just a few of those data points that I'd like to leave you with tonight. First of all, insurance is a vehicle to get you back where you were before your loss, but it doesn't drive itself. And so now that you've had a little bit of time, hopefully to acclimate to the new normal, to get maybe a good night's sleep now and then, and it's a good time for you to be boning up, because I'm sure by now you've already hopefully you've got your insurance policy, and you hopefully have already gotten some money. Hopefully you've gotten an advance on your temporary rent, which is also sometimes called additional living expense or loss of use benefits. And hopefully by now you've gotten an advance from your insurance company for replacing some of your essential household items. So again, by now, hopefully you know that your insurance policy has what we call buckets of coverage. The most important one is the coverage on your dwelling. And this may not come as a surprise to you, but 2/3 of people who lose their homes in wildfires find out that they don't have enough insurance to put back the house that they had, like, kind, and quality, that unless they put some of their own money in or take out a loan. If you're one of those people who had enough insurance, that's great. Happy for you. But there are many people who find themselves short, which means that you've got to do some creative planning in the process. And there's lots of options for you. So in order to be proactive and drive that vehicle that insurance is, you've got to really get a little bit of knowledge under your belt. And that's what my organization is here for. We don't sell anything. You can't hire us. We're not trying to push you to hire anybody in particular. We just want you to get the full benefits of the insurance that you paid for, because it really is the best source of recovery financing. You know, a FEMA loan is great if you are income eligible, but those max out at about $33,000, which, and a lot of you may not even be eligible. An SBA loan is great, does need to be paid back, super low interest, but that is something that a lot of underinsured people use to be able to put their homes back. If you had a partial loss, you may be struggling with your insurance company on the issue of who's going to do the cleaning and how should it be cleaned and how much should the cleaning cost and who's going to pay for it. Those kind of disputes are very common. We've already done a recorded free webinar that you can access from our website and watch at your convenience, where we talk about the different methods of cleaning smoke and ash, and give you suggestions if you are at odds with your insurance adjuster. A couple things I want to leave you with. If you are not getting along with your adjuster, I hope that's not the case, but if you're not, the best thing you can do is ask your insurance company to send you a new adjuster. You're within your rights to ask for that. Some of the free sources of help are the California Department of Insurance. They have a hotline, 1-800-927-HELP, where you can ask them a question. And if you are having trouble with your adjuster, or your insurance company is telling you something that doesn't sound right, and you have gone on our website, uphelp.org, and you couldn't quite find what you need, I strongly recommend that you call the Department of Insurance before you hire professional help that costs money. There's no shame in hiring professional help. A public adjuster, a reputable, experienced public adjuster can take the load off you, but you got to check references before you hire one. An attorney may be able to help you, but again, you paid for coverage and good claim service when you bought your insurance. And we very much want you to get what you paid for. Tallying up your losses in a situation like this is hard and it takes time, but time is on your side here, except for one thing. The rains coming means you really do need to get that debris removed from your property, and you need to take advantage of all the programs that you've heard about tonight, the Wattles, to really prevent your lot from having further damage in the rain, and sort of compounding the challenges that you already have. Our experience with the coordinated debris removal, that what we heard from a lot of the residents is that it was a good way of getting debris removed without having to outlay money and or negotiate with your insurance company to pay for it. But I understand that some people are going it on their own. The bottom line is that you want this process to be done safely. And that's why we recommend that you give very good consideration to the right of entry form and participating in the program. But again, we're here for you, free of charge. Our website's there 24/7. Paul, you do a great job with these forums, and those of you who are out there, you're in good hands in your county in this situation. So we're rooting for your success. Good night.
Well, we really encourage everybody to take advantage of the resources that are available on the United Policyholders website. The videos, information are incredibly valuable. And if you have a chance to get one of the books that Amy is offering, we definitely encourage you to get your hands on that. Okay, so now we're going to shift over to answering some questions from those in the audience. We encourage you to go ahead and you can either raise your hand or post your question in the question and answer area. If you just go in the participants area, you can there's a place where you can click to raise your hand and we'll call on you. But let me go to Lois. Lois, do we have some questions that you can start us with?
Yes. Hi, Paul. Thank you. The first question came in, I think before Amber spoke, but I will reiterate it. The question was, will we be notified prior to cleanup crews arriving at our property? And as Amber stated, the property owners will be contacted between 24 and 48 hours before the cleanup crews arrive. The next question is, will Cal OES perform tree removal as a separate and distinct debris removal service if you are not having a structure removed? Amber, can you answer that question?
Yes, ma'am. So if you have an eligible structure that is not burnt, but you have trees that are burnt, you can enter into the program. However, if you have a burnt structure, we do it's either all or nothing. So we wouldn't just do trees and then you go private with the other one. So in order to be in the program, we would do the whole lot. That way we could certify it at the end.
Okay, thank you. And there's another question for you, Amber. They were wondering if there was an update on the timeline of approval for structures that have been considered total, but still have some of the structure standing. I can add a little bit there, and that is that the county, the city has submitted those properties that fall into that criteria. The county has them, and we are getting together the information to forward on to Cal OES to request basically their more than one wall standing. So Amber, if you have anything that you'd like to add to that as far as a timeline for approval.
Sure. We are doing it on a case-by-case basis. So as Lois was saying, that we are taking the addresses that we have and pictures that we have and supporting our argument to FEMA to get these included as a special circumstance. City of Santa Rosa, Napa, and Sonoma all have quite a few of these properties. We did make the request early on, your county did, but we didn't have the ROEs to support them. So when we made the request, FEMA came back and said we would like the addresses and some supporting documentation. I don't know FEMA ever to write a blank check to anyone. So we want to make sure that we give them all the information that we can in order for us to get that special circumstance that's included into this program.
And I can say on behalf of the county, as soon as we receive that determination, we will let property owners know immediately. Here's another question for you, Amber. We got a quote from a private contractor. Could we know the cost estimate for debris removal by the state's program?
I'm actually going to defer this to Chris McSwain because he does the contracts with, or has done the contracts with Cal Recycle,
Okay.
just to kind of stay in my lane and make sure he speaks on behalf of that.
The answer is nothing out of pocket, no cost. To be transparent, the cost per property can range anywhere between $60,000 to much more, depending on accessibility and stuff. But that's not going to hit your pocket. The federal government and other government entities are covering that cost, except if you happen to have insurance left over when everything else is paid for. I like to say that this program takes the last dollar, not the first. And if there is not a last dollar in your insurance, we don't hit it at all. And that's very common. We come across a lot of properties that are uninsured or woefully underinsured. And this program is designed specifically for that. But even if you are well insured, you may have the desire to focus those insurance resources on other parts of your recovery and lean on the state. So the answer is nothing. The cost of the state program to you will be nothing. You happen to have insurance left over, we will access that insurance, but that's only after every other insurance claim that you have has been fulfilled.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you, Chris. Lois, we don't have any raised hands at this point, so why don't you keep going with some of the questions you have in the Q&A area?
Okay, will do. The question is tree removal separate than debris removal program? I think, Amber, you can add on, but I would say that it is not separate. I think the question was answered in your previous question. The tree removal, you would still file the same right of entry form. You can file the right of entry form specifically and only for tree removal if that's the only issue that you have on your property as far as debris. But it is not separate from the debris removal program. So I think I answered that right. Yes, Amber?
Yes, you did. You're learning quite well. Just for a little background, we've been doing this since 2007, and we are improving each incident that we do. And we found that tree programs, whenever you do them outside of the debris removal program, it ends up taking a long time. It's not in the best interest of the homeowners. So luckily this year it has been included. And so we're really excited about that because it only gets homeowners back on the recovery path quicker. So just a little tidbit to add to the reasoning why that is a good question, because in the past that has not been true.
Thank you. The next question, are there freely distributed Wattles available for residents of unincorporated Sonoma County? John, can you answer that?
Yes, thank you, Lois, for that question. So we're not doing a free pickup like the city of Santa Rosa is doing, but what we are doing is working with the 3 contractors that I mentioned and put in the chat: Sonoma Ecology Center, Russian River Keeper, and Community Soil Foundation. And they can provide the Wattles. What they may want to do is make sure that you're trained and understand how to install them correctly, and they may want to visit the site and make sure that they get put in the right location. So it's more of a technical conversation. And certainly Wattles are available at many of our retail outlets. So the Friedman Brothers and Harmony Supply and many other hardware type stores here in the county that you can purchase those, and they're fairly affordable to purchase directly as well. So please reach out to our contractors and discuss that with them, and we can work with you that way.
Great, thank you. Sean, here's a question for you. Someone asked, where is the free Wattles within the city of Santa Rosa?
Yeah, so the Wattles for the city of Santa Rosa residents are located at Rincon Valley Park and Skyhawk Park.
Great.
Lois, we have a couple of hands raised. Can I go to
Sure.
them and then come back to you?
Yep.
We want to encourage people to ask questions both ways. So let's
Right.
go first to Karen, who has a question. Karen, are you with us?
So I didn't understand, because I had never been aware of this before. Our house was a total loss. And if you have a few walls still standing, our house was made of a concrete brick, and so some of the walls are still standing. Does that mean that you wouldn't be qualified for the public program? I thought maybe Amber Lane had mentioned something about that, and I was wondering about it.
Sure, I'd love to answer that question. First of all, I'm sorry for your loss. Standing walls is something that FEMA considers demolition. And so in order for us to be eligible, we have to just take those pictures and take the APN and take all the information, and we do a site assessment to FEMA and just ask for special circumstances for that particular lot. So we are doing that actively now. We've asked the county to provide us a list of those, and we will push those forward immediately.
So how do we know if we've been included on that list?
Lois or Paul?
Yeah, do you mind sharing which jurisdiction you're in, whether you're in the city or the county?
In the county.
Okay. So then my suggestion would be Lois provide you with a county email and email them directly with your address. For city residents that may have the same question, we've done assessments throughout the city and have identified a number of structures that we have been in communication with Cal OES about to get them eligible under the program. And to follow up a little bit on the question that came up regarding that earlier, those conversations are actually happening in real time. In fact, the city is in back and forth conversations, finalizing and providing additional information on the structures that we've identified within the city. So those are happening right now.
And I would add, Karen, your property has been forwarded to the state with that request.
Oh, you knew. Okay, great. Thank you very much.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, let's take one more. The hand raised. Kat has a question as well. Kat?
Hello, thank you for taking my question. I was wondering if I could do this in this form. I have a question about insurance, or should I try to contact Amy Bach or the insurance help at a different time?
If you want to raise your question now, Amy's here and she can help answer maybe a question others have in mind as well. So,
Okay. We decided not to rebuild because our we were underinsured, so we have already purchased a home. The insurance company did not give us the building code and upgrade coverage because the new property was less due to the land cost deduction. I was wondering if they are still obligated to give it to us if the cost to rebuild our old home exceeded the coverage.
So, Kat, the current law, it does allow you to collect the code upgrade benefits that you would have been entitled to had you rebuilt. So they should pay you those, but if the home that you bought is of lesser value, did I hear you say that?
Due to the land cost deduction, yeah.
Well, meaning that the insurance company deducted the value of the land under the new home?
Correct.
Okay, so that is something that we would encourage you to fight.
Okay.
Because the original law that said you can replace your destroyed home by purchasing did not authorize insurance companies to deduct a value for the land under the home you were purchasing. It's been I guess I didn't see it. We don't think it's a gray area, but some insurance companies did. So the legislature had to go back this year and a third time and say, no, we really meant it. That law doesn't technically take effect until 2021, but there are lots of arguments that you can be making that they should not have deducted that land value. So I would suggest that you send us an email to info@uphelp.org and put in the subject line land value deduction, and let us try to help you make the best arguments that you can to your insurance company to get at least the full amount of your coverage, the dwelling coverage that you had, including the code upgrade coverage and extended replacement if you had that.
Okay, thank you so much.
great. Thank you, Kat. That was a good question. Lois, let's go back to you. Do you have some more questions from our Q&A area?
Yes, I do. Nathan, this is a question for you. Someone asked, what kind of engineer would evaluate a septic system?
That'd be a civil engineer, or there's another profession called registered environmental health specialist. We see about a 50-50 split in the design community on who designs septic systems between REHSs and civil engineers.
Great, thank you. And this is a question to the whole group. Someone wrote, when I came home today, there was spray painted info on the street just outside the curb by our driveway. Is this related to the cleanup?
This is Amber. Absolutely is. We call in 811s, which are dig alerts for every property that we have an ROE on. We cannot actually perform work unless we do have that. So that's actually a really good sign that you're in the process and you're well underway. So yes, you will see marking on your street. It's to make sure that we don't hit anything underground. And it's our due diligence that we talk about with our process.
Great, thank you. Paul, I'm just going to keep asking questions until you interrupt me with hands raised, if that's okay.
Keep going. Yeah, why don't you go for a couple more and then I'll have a hand raised. Hold on. Go ahead.
Okay. Someone asked, what's the time frame for the debris removal phase 1? It doesn't look like their neighborhood has had that completed yet. I received information today from county staff that there are about 90 properties still to be swept for the household hazardous waste, which is the phase 1. And so I would imagine that your property is in that group. If you would like, you can send an email to hazmat, that's HAZMAT, at sonoma-county.org, and they can let you know exactly where you are in the process. Here's a question that says, I am concerned about looting. Is there anything being done about it? We had some items stolen. We don't have anyone from any police department or public safety.
No, I would just offer that the resident, whether they're in the county or the city, please report it to their respective law enforcement agency, because if we don't get those reports, then the police can't adjust their responses and patrols. So we definitely want that information passed along so that we know where the incidents may be occurring, if they are.
Thank you, Paul. Another question, my home is totally destroyed, but have a few walls standing. Will this be eligible for the public program? I would just recommend that you file the right of entry form. And if you indicate on that form that your property, the structure does have more than one wall standing, the county will, or the city will move that property address up to Cal OES. They will make the determination.
Lois, I have one, if you'll let me
Sure.
go to one listener with a hand raised. Let's go to Howard Voskule. You have a question, Howard? Howard, are you with us? You may need to unmute yourself.
Unmute.
There you go.
How about that? I'm on a private road up there that had about, maybe 20 homes. They all burned down. I sold the home that I used to own there previous to the fire. So my heart goes out to the new owner. However, I still own the 5 acres behind that home. And I'm wondering what constitutes qualifying in terms of this infrastructure definition. I have a lot of trees that have been burned, and then PG&E came through and really cut things up without being critical of them. I have just kind of like a mess of burned trees that I know will be affecting the waterways. And I'm wondering if I would qualify for this. I'm also asking this question for my neighbors that actually lost homes. So my question is, how do I know whether I really qualify for this infrastructure? That's it.
Paul or Christine, do you want to answer those questions, or maybe at the Amber, if you want to answer about the trees?
I can speak to trees that are standing that are a hazard. When you fill out an ROE and you do have a tree that will hit a public right-of-way or a public utility, we will be cutting those trees if they're dead and dying. However, once another entity comes in and cuts trees, there's no longer a hazard. We take all the trees that we cut because we feel that it is a hazard, and we take responsibility for everything we cut. I'm not sure I can speak to the rest of it. So maybe Paul or someone else can speak to trees that are already fell on their lot.
If I might jump in and talk about the infrastructure for a second. So in the rural setting, most of the infrastructure is private. So if you think of your septic system for treating domestic wastewater, or your well, providing potable water, those are all private. The water lines, sewer lines going to and from, they're going to be on private land. The utility or power from PG&E, once it hits the private lot, getting to the house is the homeowner's responsibility. The only kind of infrastructure that I can think of would be the public roadway. I don't know which area you're in, but it may be up Los Alamos Road. That is a county roadway, and the county would be responsible for repairs along their public road. But maybe if you could be more specific about the which pieces of infrastructure you may be referring to.
Well, it's off of St. Helena Road, and the road is Tarwater Road.
Right.
And that's the location.
Yeah, I know St. Helena Road is going to be a public roadway. I'm not sure about the, you said tar something.
Tarwater.
That may, Tarwater.
It's a private road maintained by the residents.
Okay, so that's going to be a private infrastructure.
So does that, where does that leave us, myself and my neighbors?
Yeah, I can't really speak to if the insurance would cover some of those things. I know they would cover damage to septic systems and things of that nature, but it's all dependent upon the policy as well. And I'm nowhere near an expert on insurance, so I'd have to defer that question.
John, did you have a thought?
I did. I just want to kind of add on to what Nathan said. So thank you very much, Nathan, for those comments. They're really helpful. And Howard, what I would recommend just as a place to begin is to perhaps have Sonoma RCD or perhaps USDA NRCS. It's a lot of alphabet soup there, but it's the that particular office. Go out and look at that infrastructure, and there may be some maintenance things that are needed. There may be some unsafe conditions with the actual infrastructure, and they can help identify what those are so that you can have a real clear idea of what it is that may be a concern, and then what isn't. And then I'm somewhat familiar with that area, very, very lightly familiar. And I would say that there was potentially some very severe burn areas that may be in that particular area, Howard. And so what I would recommend is looking at that WERT map, the Watershed Emergency Response Team report map that's on our Rain Ready page. And then perhaps reaching out to some of the county staff and having a conversation about what those impacts are, just so you understand, and then you can help your neighbors be familiar with those hazards, particularly during heavy rain events during the first rainy season. So between now and say March or April. And I just want to make sure that you really understand how that land's been affected and what you may want to be aware of. So I hope that's helpful to you, and I can put my email in the chat as well if you want to reach out to me directly, Howard.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you all for that. Lois, I think we have some time for some more questions in the Q&A box, if you have some.
I do. I have plenty here. Sarah asks, what if we have an all wood deck structure we think might qualify for the exemption? Can we then utilize the debris removal service for trees only? And I think, Amber, this was to your question about if you have structural debris, it's, you do the structural debris and the trees.
Correct. It's an all or none. We take pride in the work that we do, and when we sign it off and hand it back over, we want to make sure that we are accountable for all the work done on the lot. So if we were to do a portion, that wouldn't be acceptable.
Even if that portion was exempt.
It's a good question.
Yeah, I think this question is to the wood deck that normally wouldn't need the debris removal. Excuse me, it would be exempt.
Can I ask a question of the question? Is there a qualifying structure, or is it only the wood deck that was damaged by the fire?
I don't know. Sarah, if you're on the call, if you want to raise your hand right now, Paul can put you on.
Hold on 1 second. Let me, okay, Sarah, you can ask your question.
Yeah, hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you now.
Yes, so the wood deck structure was the only structure that was damaged.
Amber can.
Yeah.
There needs to be a qualifying.
Yeah, there needs to be a qualifying structure. So the deck by itself does not make for a qualifying structure. And a qualifying structure under our guidelines that we've been provided is 120 square feet or more. So if we do not have a structure that is burnt, that has no more than one standing wall, that is our criteria. So the deck wouldn't be eligible by itself. However, if you're just talking about having a standing house and you want to just apply for trees, then that's a different topic. We can just do trees.
Okay, yes, because there is a home on the property, but the home itself was not damaged. There is a freestanding summit deck that's just the wood. So I think that would be exempt. So then the only thing that would be needed in that case is tree removal along a public driveway, which it sounds like would be qualified with the right of way.
We could definitely come out and take a look at it. So definitely fill out an ROE. We would do a full assessment with an arborist, and they would tell us which trees would qualify. But that is a great question.
Okay, thank you very much.
You're welcome, Sarah.
And here's a good question from Troy. Christine, I don't know, I think you might have the answer. He says, I did not lose my home, but have fire damaged personal goods at my home. Recology won't take fire damaged items. Where can these be taken to for disposal?
I don't know what the goods he's speaking of, but if they're just, if you're just talking about some personal items that were damaged, and if he's going to the landfill should be taking those items. If for some reason they're not taking those items, we can always work with him to do a letter of exemption and get them processed that way.
Great, thank you. So Troy, if you have any issues, you can send an email to EH for environmental health. It's EH debris removal at sonoma-county.org, and you can pursue a letter of exemption if that's what you need.
Great,
Next.
Lois, I was
okay.
going to say, I have another hand raised if you want.
Take it away.
Okay, let's go to Alan Ulrich. Alan?
Hi, Amber, I had a follow-up question. I was the gentleman who asked about separate debris removal for trees. My property has two homes. One survived, one didn't. I'm using a private debris subcontractor for the home that did perish. So am I not allowed to use Cal OES service for the tree removal associated with the house that did survive?
That's correct. It's one AP and one lot. That's all or none type of thing for us. Because we're not going to certify a private contractor's work.
Okay, so tree removal is not available to me.
What was that, sir?
Tree debris removal is not available to me because I'm choosing not to use you as well for the structure removal.
Correct.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, Lois?
Okay. Here's a question. Will dead or dying trees near the burned house, but is not a public danger, be removed by the public debris removal? I can answer that. No, they will not be removed. The only trees that will be removed are those trees that present a danger to the public or to the debris removal crew. So if the tree is precariously located in an area where the crews will be working, that tree would be included. Another question, will property owners be allowed to meet with the contractor to make sure everyone is on the same page? Also, if your property has special needs, how will the property owner know that care will be taken to prevent damage to the extent possible? Amber, do you want to take that?
Sure. I highly advise everyone to be their biggest advocate for their property. And by doing that, you can fill out your ROE with a lot of detail. We also do that 24 to 48 hour call, which you can come out and meet with us before. We don't do it by appointment, but we will let you know when we will be there. And then you can show us those things. And if they are eligible or ineligible for our program, then we will either take them or not. But it depends on really what you're speaking of. I can't really say yes or no over that question unless I had some more detail. But we were happy to help, happy to be allow you to be part of the process for sure.
Great. Thank you, Amber. Another questioner asks, this is for Amy. What if there is a deductible in your policy? Does the owner pay the deductible if your policy covers debris removal?
So you don't have to pay the deductible, but they will not pay, they will only pay above, for the damage above that. So it's not like you have to go out of pocket for it, but you should read the policy carefully to make sure that the deductible applies to debris removal. Sometimes it doesn't.
Okay, thank you. Paul, do you have anything further?
No, not right now.
Okay, I have one question here. It's another one for Amy Bach. Cecile asks, our insurance adjuster says he figured our house loss at more than the insurance amount. Then he added in the lost tanks and generator into the house instead of calling them auxiliary structures, which have their own coverage. He says it's better for us because it pushes the amount paid into the 50% increased coverage for the dwelling. I don't understand that.
I don't understand that either. That doesn't make sense to me because if you're, it sounds like you need the other structures coverage to pay for those auxiliary items, and the 50%, the extended replacement should be available to you for the house itself. You shouldn't need, if you said you were underinsured for the house itself, unless I'm missing something. The adjuster may just be trying to help you, but maybe doesn't quite understand how it works. I mean, adjusters vary in competence and in their knowledge. Do you know if the adjuster is based in California?
This is a Q&A in the written.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So I'm not speaking to anybody. So
Oh, so
it may be something that they could send an email directly
Absolutely.
to you. Because,
yes.
Yeah.
info@uphelp.org and put in the subject line other structures, or it doesn't matter what you put in the subject line for this one.
All right, thanks, Amy. I
Okay,
got one more, I have one more question here, Paul.
okay,
if we have
go
time.
ahead. You bet.
This is for John Kessel. John mentioned a new WORT map online. Do you have the link for it? John, can you put that in the chat?
So I had actually just put in the chat the SoCo emergency recover, but what I'll do is I'll go ahead and find the direct link for both the Walbridge and the glass fires and then add those as well.
Great, thank you. And that wraps it up, Paul. No more questions.
Okay, well, the timing is perfect. We are at the bottom of the hour, and we promised everybody we'd wrap it up by 6:30. A lot of good questions tonight. We thank all of our panelists for joining us, but especially we thank all of you, our attendees, our fire survivors who joined us and really did pose some terrific questions. Again, we encourage all of you who have not as yet to get your right of entry application submitted, as the deadline to apply for the program is December 15th. So we're just 13 days away. If you have other questions that weren't addressed, there is a lot of information on the recovery page on socoemergency.org. John Kessel just posted it in our chat area. It is socoemergency.org/recover, where you can find more information about the right of entry forms and other information. So we encourage you to take advantage of that. Again, we just want to assure you that you are not alone through this process. We have many people here who are willing and able to help you. Just let us know what you need. In the meantime, we wish you all the very best and thank you for joining us. Good evening.